and welcome to another episode of Open Banking Expo TV. Delighted to be back with you as we kick off 2024. My name is Ellie Duncan. I'm Head of Editorial and Content at Open Banking Expo. And today I'm really delighted to be joined by two heavyweights from the industry. First of all, we have Emma Steeley, who is the Chief Executive Officer of Aro. And with her today is William Napier, who is Product and Marketing Director, Consumer Solutions at Equifax. So welcome to Open Banking Expo TV, both of you.
Thanks, Ellie. Great to be here.
Yeah, pleasure to be speaking to you today.
Well, look, I know we've got lots to get through, but by way of introduction to all of our viewers, Emma and William are both here to talk about, a little bit more about their partnership initially, but then we want to come on to talk about open banking's uses in the lending and credit space. And I think we can all agree that maybe open banking data is being underutilised somewhat at the moment. So we're going to cover off some of the opportunities there. And Emma and William are also going to be talking a little bit about not only the potential, but perhaps why some of that open banking use cases, why they're not being realised and what needs to change there to make that happen. So as I say, welcome to this TV episode. And Emma, I'm going to come to you on this first question. How are Aro and Equifax working together? What does your partnership look like at the moment?
Yeah, thanks, Ellie. Well, as you know, this is not my first partnership with Equifax, as I did that with my previous organisation, Accounts Board, that they acquired. But what we are actually doing now is it's about our shared values and the focus that we actually have to deliver improved customer experiences and outcomes. And that's really paramount in our partnership. So, Aro is one of the largest digital lending marketplaces in the UK. And that's as we work across unsecured personal loans, credit cards, auto and secured loans. And our platform delivers what we call personal credit matching. So that uses CRA data, behavioural data, open banking data, and machine learning models to put personal credit solutions in front of customers that are most relevant for them. And Equifax have super strong growth ambitions in their consumer solutions proposition. So I guess we feel that by working together strategically, we can create a valuable and differentiated proposition for consumers in the market.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and if I could add to that, we recognize at Equifax that we do play quite a key role in consumer lending. And obviously, consumers come to us directly as well. So with this partnership, by us working with Aro, we can look at the whole lending experience end to end. And from our perspective, that actually creates a win-win-win, both for Equifax, both for Aro and Equifax panel and lenders, as well as our clients. So it's quite a broad opportunity that's actually being realized here with us.
Well, that's great to hear. And as I alluded to in my introduction, the use of open banking and those other kind of data sets obviously are presenting lenders with many opportunities. So let's delve into some of those a little bit to provide a bit of context, really. Emma, what are some of these opportunities and how might sort of additional data sets affect lives in a really positive way?
Yeah, and I have to say, Ellie, I am actually starting to become encouraged that we are starting to see the shift in the market where lenders are now able to use the open banking data to say yes to more customers. It's been a long time coming. You've heard me sort of banging the drum about how it's easy to say no to a customer, but not so easy to say yes to a customer. And we are really starting to see that shift in the market, which is super encouraging. Yeah, and it took for me to sort of step out of open banking, though, to realise it isn't a one-size-fits-all approach. And one of the key trends that I've actually seen over the last 12 months in unsecured lending space is the reduction of average loan size. And that's what we can assume is down to more stringent affordability rules being applied in the current market conditions. So it's hardly surprising, but I still believe that open banking is the best source of data to validate affordability. Fundamentally, we know that the data exists to make the credit decisions much more relevant to the individual now. And so what I would like to see more organisations doing is taking a personal approach with the data, that is available instead of broad stroke cutoffs. I think that's where sort of the opportunity is to impact in a positive way.
Mm-hmm. Is that something you're seeing as well, William, at Equifax?
Yeah, indeed. So, we recognize that obviously there's quite a lot of challenges still with lenders. So, we're constantly looking to add value by introducing more data that we source. As a data business, our strategy is to continuously acquire the next extra bits of information that we can help our partners and clients make those better decisions. So that's essentially our focus, and it's always been. So we see the same challenge and we see the same opportunities as well.
Mm-hmm. Great to hear that, and I know, as you say, Emma, you have been banging this drum for quite a while, as have so many across the lending and credit industry. So at the moment, I guess use of open banking is a little bit limited and a little bit sparse, shall we say, in lending and in credit. William, why is this? We've had kind of just over 6 years now of open banking in the UK. So what's holding it back?
Yeah, no, it's an interesting one. The OBL, Open Banking Limited, are reporting that 1 in 9 UK consumers are using open banking. But if we look at it at its potential, it should actually be more the other way around. So 9 out of 10. The ONS reports that over 90% of consumers or people in the UK use digital and internet services. So it is fairly limited at this moment, very sparse. It should empower consumers to take control of their finances, make better decisions, and manage, their multiple accounts all in one place. But there are many factors that are actually still challenging. The current limitations are still that it's limited to payment accounts, and there's still that need to categorize information. So that's not going away. It's improving. So it's credit to everybody that's tackling this. Ideally, I would have loved it at categorization at source. That would be an amazing thing. The other challenge is, the ubiquity of it. You do tend to find that it's used maybe on its own in PFM context, and we can maybe talk about that a bit later. But it's also then not embedded yet everywhere where it's needed. And lastly, the way I see it is, maybe consumers are managing their lives and finances with the tools that they have now. So, the challenge here is for us as an empowered industry to find a better solution for the rudimentary tools that consumers have, so that it can be even better managed and succeed. And over exceed what they do now.
Yeah, I like that. That's a bit of a challenge to the industry there, I think, William. Emma, anything to add there on what William's already said about limited use and maybe where there are opportunities for open banking data to really come into its own, I suppose, in this space?
Yeah, I mean, for me, there's sort of 2 key areas of why it is limited and sparse, and it's friction and fear, right? So it's well known. There's well known fear amongst lenders that you cannot unsee data. That is a fact, and it's our responsibility, as financial providers, that we can't unsee the data. So I think it's taking the time, and it will take a lot more time to create that step change in the market that means that it will become more commonplace, because everyone has to get comfortable with the data and understanding it. And I think, we sit and say, well, it's been in here now, for over 6 years. Why? But it is very challenging to be able to work through and understand and get really comfortable with that data to use it to be able to say yes. But as I said before, we are starting to see progress in that. And then friction is the other area for me. Friction for consumers. We like the friction in open banking because we then know that it's safe and secure to use. But because of the friction, there has to be a value exchange for us in order to engage with it. So without that value as why I should share my data, I'm not going to go through that friction.
Yeah, I think you've definitely hit the nail on the head there with fear and friction, and so let's presume then that the data sets that you've both kind of talked about there are being used optimally, and they're put into the hands of customers. Let's assume that happens. What's the potential then in the credit and the lending market? What can be realised, Emma?
Oh God, improved experiences and better outcomes, like for sure. Yeah, I would like to see us move away from the "you are 100% eligible" messaging to consumers. As consumers, we've got very used to seeing this when checking eligibility for credit with websites, and I think what we need to really do is create an understanding that just because you're 100% eligible does not mean you're 100% likely to end up with that product. And so there has to be some nice wording that gets put around that. But, by understanding, using the data sets and having an understanding of actually the likelihood you genuinely are to get that lender to pay out to the customer, I think that is the potential to create much improved customer experiences and better outcomes.
Mm. Is that something that you think we'd see as well? That customer experience. I mean, we've heard it so often, haven't we, that about the improvements to the customer experience journey, but perhaps we've heard it so often it's become a little bit meaningless. But actually, that is quite a life-changing potentially for the credit and lending market and for their customers, isn't it?
Yeah, and I obviously one thing that's really picking up a lot of speed is our AI-powered personalization.
Mm-hmm.
That will really improve the experience as we just talking about. Yes, we know lenders use it in decisioning, we use it in categorization, but we haven't really come to that point where we can hopefully recommend the ideal product that's the fairest and the best value for the consumer. So that's, on top of the data, I think this is where our next step lies. And then interestingly, from research out there, almost 80% of people are prepared to take AI-powered recommendations. Now, that does come with its caveats. It needs to be regulated and done fairly. So, as regulated entities, we'll make sure that works. But there's actually an appetite and an interest from consumers to accept the technology if we're able to use it for their benefit on top of the data.
Mm-hmm. I think that evidence that there is appetite for it should definitely be welcomed by the industry. Something you mentioned earlier, William, I guess, is around some of these sort of use cases. So which open banking use cases in particular are kind of yet to be realised, and what's holding them back, do you think, William?
Yeah, I think, and in particular, PFMs are something that still has quite a long way to go.
Yeah.
It's interesting that we in the industry always find these as really valuable solutions. We all fall in love with it because we understand the power of the solution. The challenge is with this use case is that it's still not addressing the customer need as much as it should. The PFMs today, they do help with a degree of what a PFM should do. So if we look at the term management, that's planning, organizing, directing, and controlling. That's quite a lot to do with your finances. So that use case is quite intense and quite complex. PFMs do provide limited support today, but what if a PFM actually managed your finances, not just showed you information? It's two different things. So that use case is one that we still have a long way to go, and we think that would probably change our industry once that is cracked quite substantially.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. I think we definitely saw, following the implementation of open banking in the UK, this raft of PFM apps that came to market. So what can we learn then from those kind of use cases, as you mentioned there, PFMs that perhaps haven't been so successful? Maybe they've failed, they just haven't taken off in the way that maybe the industry expected them to. So yeah, what are some of the learnings there, William? Do you think the industry is learning as well?
The industry is learning. There are propositions out there that are getting closer to customer needs. A customer need to me is getting that right outcome. We all want the finances to be managed easily, and we want the relevant products at the right price. And where PFMs are today, there's still a broad gap. So the learning is that whilst it's a great solution, we really need to maybe flip it on its head and focus on the outcome first, and then see how we can help manage towards that. So that's the main learning that we've seen over the last few years. And like I said, there are a few that are starting to push further towards that direction. We hope to be part of that as well.
Mm-hmm. Emma, do you think the industry has learnt, rather than pushing out solutions that they think people want, and actually, as William says, looking to those kind of outcomes first and foremost?
Oh yeah, I mean, William puts it so much more eloquently than I do, right? Because it just has to be valuable to the customer. PFMs, they are a great concept. But if you tell me to spend less on coffee and put it in my pension, you're removing the joy from my life, and I'm just going to delete the app, right? So we have to ask ourselves why the customer would want to share data with us, and not just think any use case has potential. What is the value to the customer is the critical thing to ask, as well as asking, why wouldn't the customer want to go through this process? So if a customer just does something once, it isn't a success. It has to be an action that adds, enough value for the first time so that it can be repeatable. And that for me is the crux of it that we need to get to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, just because it can be done, it can be designed and created, doesn't mean actually it should be if no one's going to use it. And like you say, especially in sort of January, February time, no one wants to be told that they can't afford their coffee and they should be paying into a pension pot. So, look, it's really interesting hearing from both of you today just how many opportunities there are out there, how the industry is coming to realise some of those opportunities. And I think, at the heart of all this is this idea of good customer outcomes. So I guess my final sort of question to you both, and I'll come to you on this first, William. What are the ideal kind of good customer outcomes in your view from the use of data in this kind of more holistic way in the lending market?
Yeah, no, great question. And quite, we use the word holistic there, so that could be quite broad. But, if we think about it, the tailoring of products is still not as tailored as it should be. The personalization and the exact fit that someone needs. When you apply for a product, you get a rate based on your history and where you're currently at. But what if while you're using the product, your circumstances change, and hopefully for the better? Should you still be paying, an extra premium on a rate? So, I think holistically, I think the lending market can actually find a way to really more consistently and higher at a higher frequency tailor the products that a customer has, and potentially help them make that progress so that they can maybe get a better rate as they progress, with maybe helping them save, those sort of things. And then that creates that circular relationship of helping each other, being a client, helping a consumer, and the consumer making progress, then remaining a client. So I think that's the challenge I think the lending market should set itself. And, from my perspective, the tools are there, the data's there, the user interfaces are there. It's obviously hard to build that out, and that's the biggest challenge at this point, but we can do it.
And the same question to you, Emma.
Yeah, well, so, for me, it's about more customers getting what they need more of the time. So in financial services, I spoke about friction earlier, and we do need friction when applying for any kind of credit. And it's much more serious than us just going on and buying something on Amazon, right? So customers do expect and actually want to go through an application process, but no one applies for credit for fun, right? And I think you've probably heard me say that a million times. So it's having that relief of being approved and accessing the credit you need that is so important. And I think the data, well, I know the data that is there today to enable those outcomes to happen. And so I think what we really need to think about as an industry is let's use the data. And firstly, it has to be, we can think holistically. And I love those concepts of, that William spoke through about having that relationship with the customer and helping the customer and what we can do. But we have to firstly think in a small and sustainable way to unlock that potential that we have to deliver the personal credit solutions to our customers. So for me, it's about, even if just taking a few minutes a day to consciously think differently about how you can do it, I think that will start to have a positive impact in the industry for the longer term and lead to those kind of concepts that William was talking about.
And on that note, then, what's your call to action then to the industry, Emma?
I guess mine would be just take a few minutes every day to see how you could be open to thinking differently. And if you can be open to doing things in a different way, that I think is something could be really, really powerful if all of us in the financial services industry took the time to do that.
Yeah, thanks, Emma. And William, do you have a call to action to help the industry kind of get to where you've both been talking about today?
Yeah, and it's a drum that we all eat. It's not just us in the financial services world who use these products, who need these products. So I think, like Emma's saying, take a step out, look outside, the office and think about those needs as well. I'd like to reiterate what Emma's saying, because at the end of the day, a good customer outcome benefits everybody.
Mm-hmm. Well, look, thank you so much, both of you, for answering my questions today, for coming on to Open Banking Expo TV and talking more about hopefully something we'll see a bit more progress on this year, really, and that is use of open banking data to lend to customers and provide them with the solutions that they really want and need. So thanks, both of you.
Thank you so much.
Thanks so much, Ellie. Thanks, William.
And thank you for watching this episode of Open Banking Expo TV. Until next time, goodbye.